So, Liz, you've spent over 20 years reporting on beauty for Irish audiences. What drew you to it initially?
Oh, okay. So actually, initially I was a journalist, and I was working in magazines, and I was I don't know, I put on the fashion desk, and I was fashion editor in VIP at the time, which was like we had VIP magazine, we had Kiss magazine, which was a teenage girls magazine, and God, what else was there? There was a few other magazines, Dubliner and stuff like that, and I was out in fashion shoots all the time. And what actually really interested me about the fashion shoots was not the clothes, but was the hair and makeup that was going on behind the scenes. Because this is like, gosh, I think it was more like I was 23, so I'm 47 now, so well over 20 years ago. This is before YouTube, before we had makeup tutorials, before we, had Instagram and we knew about all the products and how to apply them and so forth. So I'd never had that education, even though I, grew up in a family of girls, went to a girls' school. We just slapped on the makeup, boot polished, over the best, and looked mental when we look back on photos. So I was kind of much more intrigued about the hair and makeup side of the coin. And then I started segueing way more into the beauty side of it. And then I set up Beauty Bootcamp. I don't know if anyone listening ever attended over the years. It was like a course on Saturdays, and I'd bring the hair and makeup teams there, who I was out in shoots with, and they would teach regular women how to do their hair and makeup. And then I moved over to Image, and I was very much looking after the beauty, health, wellness side of the coin. But again, when I was interviewing people, like, the makeup, I always think that's the fluffy side of beauty. And I mean, it's great. We all need it. But for me, it was the science, it was the medicine, it was the doctors that really kind of got me excited. And then as that evolved, so did aesthetics, and I became much more interested in that side of the coin, medical aesthetics, the scientific side, the clinical side of things.
Did you know it was a massive growth industry in those early days of it when it started bubbling up? Did you see the potential?
Well, so here I always remember being in Paris, right? I was at a Chanel press event, and it was this ridiculously obnoxious, magnificent, opulent event, and was with all these beauty editors from all over the world. So every, best beauty editor from all over the world was invited to Paris, and we all went to some fancy dinner the night before, Karl Lagerfeld, and that was amazing. And we all had to meet at 6 a.m. the next morning. To go down to, I don't know what we were doing, we were going to grass or something like that. And all the beauty editors walked down for breakfast. And I was like, every single one of these girls looks exhausted, tired, pale, like, without being rude, a little bit fucked. And I was thinking they have access to the best beauty products in the world, the best, facialists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This, again, we're talking about 18 years ago now. And I was like, and if they can't look good off the back of products, nobody can. So that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. I was like, it's not products that's going to keep you looking well. It's the people that you need. So I shifted my mindset entirely. I was cynical to begin with, but then I became even more cynical.
Yeah. So nowadays you look after Future Beauty. It's an event that you co-founded with your sister, Nikki. Yeah. Can you tell me briefly what's involved there? What's it all about?
So it's Future Beauty and Health now, because we kind of evolved. So we started up in 2019, just before COVID. So it was a wonderful time to start an events company. Nikki was a lawyer. I was a full-time journalist. And we were like, do you know what? Let's just pack it all in, see if this works. So I was being asked, so because I've been reporting on aesthetics, medical beauty, etc., for so long in magazines, newspapers, I was on TV3. I'm sure people remember Expose. I used to do a segment called Extreme Beauty, and I go around and test treatments. And what happened off the back of that was I was getting non-stop messages from people, like literally, and people would tap me in the supermarket going, hi, excuse me, I'm interested in this treatment, where should I go, who should I see, etc. And this was, this was about 10 years ago. And again, it was still very hush-hush back then. Nobody talked about getting Botox. It was very much taboo, and it was under the radar kind of thing. Not that everyone wasn't doing it, it was just no one was talking about it. And it wasn't just Botox, there was a million things happening. So I was basically running a referral service for free. And it was like a full-time job. And it wasn't just me, it was like Nikki, my sister, and my other sister, Louise, constantly would be sending me messages from their friends as well saying, hey, could you sort this person out? They're looking for someone to sort their stretch marks, their acne. They need a dermatologist. You know, they have hair loss, they have vein issues, they have vagina issues. You know, the list is endless. And I suppose I was just kind of going, like, the need for information and guidance is massive here. And particularly in the era of the cowboy clinics and the dodgy people out there as well. And I was like, I just can't feel this all by myself. I was like, we need something bigger. Like, we need a platform to try and educate people, because in the right hands, this can be an amazing industry. In the wrong hands, it can be dangerous. You're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. And, you know, sometimes we can have really serious ramifications from dodgy practices. So I was like, how can I get all this information into one place and all these people who I meet into one place? And the idea of the show came and Nikki was just, she'd just taken redundancy. She was working with NAMA, and we were like, will we put on a big show in the RDS? Like, with no event planning background at all. So on reflection, it was insanity, but at the time we're like, let's just go bigger, go home and see what happens instead of starting small. And now we're at like 8,000 people at the weekend, you know, come in. So it grew legs really, really fast.
Yes. So you've tried lots of treatments over the years.
Oh my God, hundreds.
Hundreds. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Did anything have an effect that wasn't quite what you desired?
Oh my God, like so many. I'd say for every amazing one, I've had two bad.
Whoa. Okay.
Or if not bad, but two meh. Like, if I paid for that, if I'd gone through the pain, gone through the hassle, I would be screaming at the clinic looking for my money back. Mm-hmm. Again, that's another big grey area as well. People are like, what is my stance if I'm really disappointed with the result?
So what about the other side of things, Liz? Treatments that you've had, you loved, but also that you thought represented good value?
Right, well, aesthetics is not good value, I think, to be honest. Let's call it a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And I think the longer I've been in it, the more I realize it's basics that are worthwhile investing in. And I always try and make people think of it like it's your house. Okay. Think of your face as your house, or your face, your body, your hair, your neck, etc. You are living in that space and you want to improve your house. Okay. So let's say you're living in your home and you're going, do you know what? I want to change something about this house. I want to put on an extension. I want to put in a new floor. I want to improve my surfaces, whatever it is you want. And I think a face, body, etc. is not too dissimilar, okay? And people need to think of it as a whole, okay? So if you are looking at your sitting room and going, do you know what, it's looking really old and a bit tired in here and it needs a freshen up. What am I going to do? I'm going to paint it. Maybe that's your Botox. But you're like, I'm just going to paint one wall and I'm going to keep painting that wall for the next 20 years. And obviously that wall is going to start looking weird, or it's going to look really nice. And then the rest of the room is going to age around it. So it's the same idea with doing one treatment, like doing Botox for your forehead or putting filler in your lips over and over again. It's going to look weird, and it's aging. The aging is happening everywhere, like in a room or in a home. It's like not just one room is going to age, you know, a million times faster than the other.
It's funny, like facelifts are definitely having a moment, right? You know, they're a lot more, you know, popular with younger people now. And I read something that Jamila Jamil said recently. She said that she sees facelifts as this new form of elitism. Do you think there's anything to be said for that?
Yeah, but like that's what they said about Botox 20 years ago. So I absolutely think that's where we're going. So facelifts are having their moment. I mean, obviously we're all seeing the Kris Jenners and the Lindsay Lohans and everything, and we're like, how is that even possible? Facelifts and the facelifting techniques have evolved like a million times to what we would have been, you know, like the Joan Rivers windswept facelifts of the 80s, you know, where people looked just kind of crazy, to be honest. Now they're going very deep below the layers. They're lifting, they're lifting the fat fascia, the muscles, the whole shebang. Like, it's much more, again, it's back to holistic. Whereas before they were literally just lifting one muscle and pulling your face back like that, as if you were, you know, doing the Croydon facelift with sellotape on your eyes kind of thing. Whereas now they're lifting the whole thing from the neck up under the skin. They're rehanging muscles. They're rehanging facial structures. It's incredible what they're doing. Recovery times are much shorter. I was about to say prices have gone down, but they were going down, but now they've gone batshit again.
Yeah.
Again, primarily because of this like Hollywood, you know, explosion in the last few years of these incredible results. So is it an elite thing? I mean, yes, you have to be able to afford it, but like you could probably get a good facelift by a really, really, really good surgeon for 40,000 euros, okay? Which sounds like a lot for most people. But okay, if you were to put that in context, if I'm in my 30s and I'm going to invest 2 grand a year in my face for the next 20 years on Botox, lasers, filler, whatever it is, polynucleotide, sculpture, blah, 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 you've already spent well over 40 grand. And you've been, as I was saying, you're chasing a problem all the time. You're never actually solving it. So, and again, like people, again, cars, we look at cars and go, 40 grand in a car, that's grand, sure. And we expect that it'll depreciate and it will have no value in 20 years. But when it comes to our faces and things like that, people are going, oh, Jesus, that's far too much to spend on myself.
Yeah.
Maybe
yeah.
that's an Irish thing, whereas in America, they're like, no, honey, I'm worth it. I'm worth it.
Yeah.
You understand in my face.
Yeah.
So there is a huge sea change.
40 grand for a good facelift. You mentioned there somebody spending 2 grand a year on, non-surgical treatments. But like, let's be frank, people are spending a lot more than that. If you look at the cost of Botox, so one area, entry level, probably about 200 quid for one area.
I don't know who's selling it for 200 quid.
High street. But high street Botox, and there are a lot of people going for it. But that's, and people aren't getting 6 months out of it. They're barely even getting 3 months out of it. Yeah.
It's very hard to step off the Botox bandwagon. It really is. So yeah, the people, like I have friends, I'm not joking, they drop at least 10k a year on, face treatments, hair, etc. And that's before you've even started on the body. Like I know some clinics, you're not getting out of a regular Botox appointment for less than 2 grand, and then we have other clinics now, which are clever, doing subscription services as well throughout the year. And maybe you're signing up, paying 300 euros a month, and you get certain number of injectables. You might get lasers, you might get, biostimulation treatments as well throughout the year. So maybe that's a better way in terms of economizing if you want to budget for your face, hair, beauty, etc. However, it's very hard to budget because the problems just appear. Like the older you get, you're like, when did I get weird ears? You know what I mean? You're like, I didn't worry about weird ears
Oh my God.
3 years ago, and now that wasn't in my budget. That wasn't in the fiscal plan for my age.
Yes.
So it is hard to budget. Plus, if you're in the clinic and the doctor's going, I have this amazing new treatment here, and
I hate going to those clinics, because I have I've cheaped out and gone to the high street ones here and there, and it's the upsell. It's like it's so bad. It's so unethical.
And this is another reason why we set up the show, because you walk into a clinic. And I mean, even the best clinics in the world are there to make money, right? Hopefully you will have a doctor who is, has your best interests at heart, but they still need to make money, and running a clinic is expensive, insurance, whatnot, etc. But they are investing in a machine. Let's say it is a laser machine and it's called the JJJ machine, for argument's sake. They've spent 250,000 euros on that machine. That's $250,000. It's the price of a house, right? They need to make that back. So clearly they're going to be selling it to you, saying it's going to give you the skin of a peach, etc., etc., etc. They are putting a lot of pressure on their team, and they're like, I know from nurses, staff, etc. They're like, oh my God, I was like under huge sales pressure to deliver like 40 treatments a week, and if I didn't, I wasn't getting a bonus, or I wasn't getting my commission. So they're getting commission. They don't get paid very well. The people lower down in the clinic ranking per se. So obviously they want to make commission. They're getting extra commission then on skincare. They're getting, the more treatments they sell, obviously the better it is for the clinic's bottom line. But it's not necessarily better for your face or your neck or your eyes or your hair or your vagina or wherever the hell you're trying to, sort out. But it is good for them, Yes. This is where I suppose we're coming in. Like, I've been testing this for 20 years. I have no affiliation with any particular company, brands, etc. I am honest to a fault. And that has been my downfall throughout the years as well. Like, many companies have like, oh my God, she slated us. But I'm like, don't you know what? I prefer to slate you and make an enemy of you than have that poor woman spend her, pension fund on something that isn't going to work, because sounds really like, thing like power to the people, but it's true. I'm like, I am that consumer. My friends are that consumer. And like, money is tight, even in the best, the most, flahoolik of households. You don't want to be throwing it away on things, know?
So you mentioned budgets earlier, Liz, and you mentioned your friends who are like, you have some friends who are spending 10 grand a year, but I'm always curious about like what percentage, ballpark, of your take-home pay should you spend on beauty? Because I'm always asking myself, like, what's reasonable, what's right? At what point does this veer into beauty slavery? You know, like at what point do you become a slave to beauty? You know?
Yeah. I mean, look, that is a really loaded question because it's very personal. It's what the person wants, and like you're obviously saying, like that's playing on, you know, you're kind of playing on people's insecurities as well. But you could say, look, I'm really into, you know, sailing. Like, at what point do you stop spending money on sailing? You know what I mean, on boats and equipment and whatnot. So look, it's up to you. It's entirely up to you how much you spend on yourself. You know, as long as you are, if it's making you feel good and you're not, you know, going into debt over it, and it's not putting your health at any risk. I mean, it's your call. Sky's the limit, or you can little as much as you can. Like I always say to people, like if budget is a concern, I mean, and of course it is, especially now, cost of living for most people, go back to basics. Like my 2 ride or die treatments have been and will always be IPL. It is the most oldest treatment out there, and you can get loads of good deals on IPL laser. It's like intense pulse light laser. It's been around for 20, 30 years in clinics. It zaps your skin. Particularly good for Irish people because we have such redness. It gets rid of the redness. It helps clear up patches of pigment. It helps stimulate collagen. And there is good deals to be had on IPL out there in many clinics now. And then Botox, but I have not gotten Botox just on my forehead, I'd say for about 15 years now at this point. I call forehead Botox 101, you know, and it's only our basic bitch Botox, if you want to be rude about it. Don't do that, because this start going up here and then the rest of your face goes even south, and then the disjoint between the two is even more profound and looks completely ridiculous. So a good advanced injector would be able to, let's say they call it units, right, in the industry. So people are getting 50 units here on their forehead, right, and they think they're coming out going, oh, I look great for a few weeks. But then everything else starts to look strange, especially if you're repeatedly doing this for years and years and years. And the older you get, the more peculiar the face starts to look. So I would get the same 50 units that most people will get in their forehead or those 2 areas all over, from the nipples all the way up.
From the nipples?
From the nipples, like all on the décolletage as well, because you want your décolletage lifted too. All the way, like teeny tiny amounts of, like, you know, micro Botox almost, hitting very specific muscle points. Along the neck, along the jowls, and then up along the face. And the very last place to get it will be the brow and the eyes.
I thought I knew what was up, but I'm now educated. So, you know, if somebody comes into, you know, if people are struggling with cost of living, do you think that this is an area that you can cut back, or do you think people will generally cut back elsewhere?
So again, I remember when we had the last recession, I was asking like clinic friends of mine, like, you know, what's happening? Are you getting affected? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. And what we're finding, they're saying people are not cutting back on the Botox. They're just extending the period of time. So whereas they might have been coming in every 3 or 4 months, they're now coming in every 5 to 6 months. So they were still getting it. I remember a friend of mine was on the dole during the recession the last time. She was like, I'm still getting my Botox. She was like, I am foregoing, you know, nice dinners or whatever it was at the time. She was like, I still have my Botox slush fund on the dole. So she was saving for that, you know. So people will still do it. They will obviously cut back on the extras, like the profilos, the diamond necklaces, as I call it, the extra bits and pieces, the lasers and stuff like that. But I think Botox is your diehard, and it's very, very unlikely that will ever go down.
Yeah. Liz Dwyer, that was fascinating. Thank you so much.